All right.
9:57. Fantastic.
57. Perfect. So we're early. 3 minutes early. Okay. All right. So what we talked about previously was that there was a very, very significant change to mankind and to the world as a whole through the sin in Gan Eden. And that now the two things change. Not only do we need to correct all of the damage that was done through that, which is a 6,000-year process, but we also need to then grow above that point. In other words, there was a starting point where Adam was created. His goal was to grow to a certain degree. Now, not only do we have to get back to where Adam was, then we have to accomplish that growth that he was supposed to accomplish. So there's this double job that we have on us now that we need to do. And he also mentioned that it is more difficult because before the sin, evil was external. It wasn't internal. It wasn't part of who we were. It wasn't part of our decision-making process. It was never the bad side. But now that's not the case, and therefore it is much more difficult now for us to accomplish that growth that Adam needed to accomplish, and even to fix that which Adam ruined, so to speak. That is all part of our job, and it is more difficult now than it was then. Okay.
Quick question.
Yes, that was quick.
Do we have any idea what it means when we say that had Adam not sinned, what was the growth he was supposed to go through?
It was, the way Rav Dessler puts it, he was going to ascend a spiritual spiral to perfection. That's it? Wow. I didn't think that answered the question, but okay. All right, moving on, quick. So, no, too late. Okay. All right. So let's see. Tess. V'ulam. However, Milvad calls in addition to all of this, Gazra Midas Dina Yisbarach Shemai, Hashem's attribute of justice decreed, Shelo Yuchlu Loya Adam V'Loya Olam, that a person and the world cannot, Me'ata, from now, Hagia El Hashlemus, cannot achieve perfection. Meaning the world as at whole, at large, as a whole, and people, mankind, as a whole, cannot accomplish perfection. Aydam b'tzurashnes kalkala, as long as we and the world are in this new ruined form. Because as we said, once man sinned, the form of man and the form of the world changed drastically. And as long as we are in this form, we cannot achieve perfection. Okay, so we can't get back to where Adam was. Oh, I shouldn't say that. We can't get to where Adam was supposed to get to. It's not possible. We're now in a form that doesn't allow for that. It's not in the cards. Dahainu, meaning to say, Hatsura sheyesh lam achshav, the form that we have now, sheba nisraba hara, that in it there is so much evil. Ela yitztarech lahem behachrech avar me'avar hahapsid. Rather, they, meaning mankind and the world and everything in it, need to go through a process of decay, of loss. Dahainu hamisal adam. For man, this means death. V'hafsid l'chol shar ha'hoivim sh'neskak l'imay, and there has to be decay for everything else that has been ruined with it. Okay, so what he's saying is that since this sin is going to preclude perfection, because of the form that we have now taken and the world has now taken, perfection is not an option for us. It's out of our ability. It's not within our grasp. So therefore, in order to achieve perfection, we have to leave this form. And the world has to leave the form that it's in, because in this form, it cannot accomplish that growth. Oh, we might be able to get very close. We can get very far. I meant both of those in two different ways. We can get close to perfection, and we can get far from where we are today. But we cannot reach perfection in the form that we're in, and therefore, there has to be death. We have to leave the physical body, which is what has incorporated evil into it. And in doing so, we will then be able to come back in a way that we can achieve perfection. But as long as we're in our physical bodies that right now have that infusion of evil in them, we cannot achieve perfection. So that's why there has to be death. And the same applies to the whole world. The world as it is, in its physical format, cannot accomplish the growth to be parallel to where mankind needs to be for perfection. So the way the world exists now, again, is not suitable for the perfect form of man that is not achievable. So the world will also have to go through decay and change and rebirth in order to house the perfect man. Now he's going to explain when that's all going to happen, how that's all going to happen, but just to understand why this needs to be the way it is. So when we think about the punishment to Adam and to mankind, really, through the sin, we have to realize it's not so much a punishment as it is simply working things out. Because of the sin, we drop to a level that we cannot reach perfection. So the only way to get there is through death. So death is not a punishment. It's not like you were bad, here's a slap on the wrist, so you're going to die. That's not what it was. It was, okay, what you just did made it that it's impossible for you to reach perfection unless you die. So I just want you to know that. You're going to die now in order that you can achieve perfection, which didn't need to be this way. If you hadn't sinned, you would not have had to die in order to reach perfection. But now that you did, this is what's going to have to happen. So it's not a punishment the way we think of punishment. It's simply the consequence and having to work things out. This is just the way it's going to have to work now.
But unfortunately, if somebody was mentally ill and they read that, they'd say, oh, so it's okay to commit suicide.
I don't know that they'd have to be mentally ill, but they'd certainly have to be ignorant. If someone's not a believer, then yeah, what's wrong with suicide? You don't like life? End it. Why not? No one's making you stay here. You're miserable? End it. Why not? But someone who's a believer doesn't need this. All you have to do is believe in the world to come, and that itself is enough. Or believe that there is a purpose for your being here.
To believe in the world to come is a reason to commit suicide?
No, there's a reason not to. Saying a person doesn't have to be just not mentally ill. You know,
you can't get rid of that one.
So, okay, we're gotta go down a rabbit hole here. Okay, so if that's the case, then why?
But make sure you get a life insurance policy. Just saying.
Yeah. Why is
Sell those?
there a?
Okay, just checking.
Why
Guy in the white shirt.
I do life.
Do you do death? Is the question.
Nope. Whatever God handles, I can't do.
So, is suicide frowned upon then because it's not up to us to decide when that is, like when we've hit that?
Suicide is the ultimate act of, again, assuming someone is well, suicide is the ultimate act of saying, I don't care what Hashem thinks.
Okay. That makes sense.
Assuming you're a believer. If you don't believe in
Yeah.
Hashem, then you're not saying that.
Right. Then it's not even in the.
Right.
But
Yeah.
even if you believe in Hashem, these words are very, very demoralizing.
What do you mean?
Well, you're saying that, like, there's no hope of accomplishing something almost. That's what it sounds
No,
like.
there's no hope of accomplishing perfection,
So we
in
get
the
as
current
close as we
form.
possibly can.
But that's not the way judgment works. Judgment doesn't work based on your accomplishing perfection. Judgment works based on your accomplishing your potential. Now, your potential is limited. And your potential is different than my potential. And we're each limited in different ways. But as a whole, mankind is limited
Are these
from perfection.
Sorry for the interruption. Are your statements actually that you read from just now? Are they pointing to this potential or not?
What do you mean?
Well, you're making the statement about the potential right now, so I understand
Yeah.
that. But I'm asking what you just
We learned that in the
talking about,
beginning.
The word the potential.
Yes.
Okay.
We
so
spent
so
lots
you
of
feel,
pages on
You
that.
might have been on the.
You might have been
golf course.
sleeping.
So you're saying it's a given. It's a given when you make these other statements.
Yeah, we've
Okay.
already discussed this.
Okay, fine.
We just need to review it, apparently.
We're good.
So are we going to be reborn and then perfect ourselves, or what?
Ah, we'll see. We're going to get there. Yeah, that's where we're heading.
If I come back, I don't want any paperwork. None.
Yeah.
Well, make sure you do it all now, then.
She has been. This
I
woman
can't.
needs a break.
I can't do it all. I just. That's why I just want it to go away.
Well, if you ever
up to
need
Hashem.
a deterrent from doing something wrong, just think about Hashem knows how to, shape Gehenna differently for each person. So,
Yours will involve paperwork.
yeah,
What if there is paperwork?
I'd say avoid it at all costs.
Yeah,
Jeez.
just do it all here.
Just hire someone.
So much.
Yeah, that's true.
Just hire
I
someone.
thought we were all going to spend some time in Gehenna.
Not
Right.
necessarily.
No.
Almost all of us? Most of us?
I thought it was like the more things you do here, the more like I don't want to say. I guess the more observant, the more all of it than the less time you spend in Gehenna. No.
Gehenna is a cleansing process. So everything
Yeah.
that you've done wrong that you didn't do tshuva for and get a cleanse in this world, you have to
Right.
get a cleanse in the next.
Right.
It's not about what you did right. It's about what you
Right.
did
Right.
wrong.
Right. Okay. So stop doing things wrong.
Yeah.
Okay. That's
Good idea.
Positive.
Good plan.
It's so easy.
All right. Liar. All right. Okay, so, the neshama in its present state is not able to purify the body until after the neshama leaves the body, which is v'yamos haguf, the body dies, v'yipaser, and the body decays. Then you can start rebuilding a new building, a new body. Then the neshama can go into this new body, and it can then purify this new body. So that's the process. The process is, man, Adam, when he was created, we talked about this previously, his neshama was so overwhelming in its potency and its power relative to his physicality, which was very thin and very minute, that there was no decay. The neshama was spiritually powering the body. Don't even know if he needed to eat, because the neshama was powering him, and it kept any decay from happening. Once the sin happened, the physicality became much heavier, much more dense. The neshama became kind of quashed and hidden and concealed almost, or really. And because of that, the neshama no longer has the power to influence and to give sustenance and power and influence to the body. So what you're left with is a neshama that's contained in like an airtight container, and it can't get out. It can't change anything. It can't do anything to that container really. Now, to a certain extent, the person's decisions can purify the body, but the neshama itself cannot. But that's very limited. There's only so much we can accomplish without the neshama doing its own work. So since the body that we have is kind of like this concrete container, so the neshama has to die. The neshama has to leave the body. The body will then decay because it's got nothing keeping it going anymore. And as it decays, it will go down to its most minute point, which, by the way, as an aside, is a little bone called the luz bone. The luz bone was a bone that was not Malach Malka. The luz bone was a bone that only gets sustenance from a Malav Malka, from the meal that we have right after Shabbos. It's the only time it gets any sustenance. So since the eating from the tree of knowledge was on Friday, so the luz bone got nothing from that eating, and therefore was not affected by it, and therefore is not subject to decay. So that luz bone is going to remain. So the body is going to decay except for that luz bone. And then that luz bone will then be rebuilt into a new body, kind of like Chava was made from a part of Adam into a new body. The luz bone of each person will be made into a new body. And that new body will be free of sin because it just came from the luz, which was never tainted by the sin of eating from the tree of knowledge. So now this new body will be pure, and the neshama can then enter that new body and purify it and uplift it spiritually to get us to where perfection is found. So that's the process of how it's all going to work. But again, we can understand clearly that this is all impossible as long as we're in our bodies the way we are now. So we have to first shed the body, get out, allow the luz to rebuild into a new body, and then the neshama will be able to return to this new body and purify it completely. Okay. Is this good? Good to go?
How do you spell luz bone?
Yeah.
Luz.
So like light in Spanish.
Yeah, that's what I was just thinking.
Yes.
It means light in Spanish. Yeah.
And what was the reason why you said Adam sinned on Friday?
Mm-hmm.
And so why is the loose bone not contaminated?
Because the luz only gets sustenance on the Malav Malka meal,
Okay.
which is after Shabbos.
And that's a real part of our body? Like a
It
physical-
is. It
or it's
certainly
part of the
seems
soul?
like it, but I don't know that I don't know how microscopic it is.
Oh, wow.
It might not be the kind of bone that, an archaeologist is going to find. It might be something that looks like dust and, is unrecognizable to the untrained eye. When I say untrained, I mean everybody in the world.
You hear this music?
No,
Okay.
I don't. You shouldn't either.
Okay.
Okay?
And
Too
every
bad, but I
soul's
hear
going to
it.
go back to its original, or is it going to be different souls to different?
That's a
Okay,
toughie.
so-
That's a tough question. So, simply put, the answer is every neshama will go back into the body that it came from. The problem is the concept of gilgulim, is that that neshamas can do multiple rounds
Right.
of life.
Right.
Which
And
body
there
is
are
it?
bodies that have neshamas that are made up of different parts, of different pieces from other neshamas. So that makes it all very complicated. So I'm not going to answer that.
So not only that, because that just gets my brain spinning. Like, think about if when this whole resurrection thing happens, right, and we come back, like, at what age are we? Are we at our like prime? Like,
It's a new body.
it's a brand new body.
It's a brand new
Do we
body.
look the same? Like, is it gonna?
You're not going to care.
I know that, but I care now. So because it's something like like when I first
There's that
learned
anxiety
about that,
coming back.
No, when I first learned about that, like it shocked me. So like, okay, but wait, if we're all, if there's multiple bodies that held the same neshama, like which one comes back, and do we come back as our like end of life selves?
All right. So,
Right?
The
Like-
Ari
so
talks about this in Shara Gilgulim.
who does?
The Ari.
And
I don't.
I'd prefer to come
I
back.
All right,
can't
so-
even-
I want to come back without wrinkles. That's all.
I will tell you my understanding.
Your grandma be the same age. You want your grandma to be your
Right,
grandma.
and I don't want
your
any
mom to be
wrinkles.
your mom.
Well, actually, you age the entire time. So some people are going to be like 5,000 years old. No, I'm kidding.
So we look like zombies? Like what?
All right, let
I don't know.
me give you
This
my
is where my
idea.
brain goes. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So my idea is that assuming that the system is the way I understand it from what he's saying, we will resemble Adam prior to the sin.
Okay.
Now, Adam prior to the sin was completely different than humans are today. Completely. He was extremely tall. His body, his skin was very, his physicality was extremely thin.
Translucent.
And according to one version, he was covered, his skin was made of like a nail-like substance.
Okay.
And his feet shone like the sun. Like, these are not
Not
things we
helping.
understand. What?
He's like, this is not looking good.
Yeah.
He's like, you're not helping the situation.
But-
So,
Just thinking of like, there's.
so just to
Yeah.
think that we can understand what that looks like
Yeah.
is really not a good idea, because we can't.
Okay.
And almost like no
Right, I'll let it go.
self-awareness. Like he wasn't. There was a, if I understand it correctly, there was no self-absorption. It wasn't like there was no such nudity, this,
I
that,
was gonna say,
my
he was
body,
naked,
the way
didn't
my
care.
body
Yeah.
looks, the way.
Yeah.
That
Physicality was
that was
not
a moot
important.
point. That was not even
Okay.
a part of his
Thought
chemistry.
process, right.
can dig that.
Right. Like I said, you're not going to care.
Okay. You say so.
You won't need to worry about, like, exercising and all that.
I like that.
Watching what you eat.
Tattoos.
Exactly.
Right. Right.
No need. No need to
Piercings.
worry. Exactly. All these things will be long gone. They will not be on the radar.
What about eating malava malka? Like, do you have to
Yeah.
have a kavana when you eat malava malka, or can you just eat after Shabbos?
As long as it's in honor of Shabbos, that's fine.
But you have to
Oh my
have
gosh,
that
what if
kavana.
you don't eat? after
Well,
Shabbos?
as long as let's put it this way. If you would normally eat then anyway, then yes, you would have to have kavanah. But if the only reason you're eating is because it's Matzah Shabbos, so then that's inherent. And you don't need to have specific kavanah.
Alright, I need to start doing that.
What would
I didn't
happen
realize we were
to,
supposed to be doing that.
What would happen to circumcision?
Would not be necessary.
good to know. Because, like, Shabbos, we eat so much food during lunch, like, I literally don't eat anything for the rest of the day.
So you can
I
even
need
have a hot
something.
drink.
Okay. That's
All
easy.
right, thank you.
A tea.
Go for it. That's
Chaim.
right. Chaim.
Anybody else?
And I will say there are opinions that say that if you didn't have a Motzei Shabbos, it counts on Sunday morning.
Okay,
So
Chaim.
these coffees here might be your ticket to having a healthy lose. That's right.
Amazing.
We'll just call it lose coffee.
Lose coffee.
There you go.
Lose coffee.
That's
Don't lose it.
has to be made on Saturday night.
So if you miss it, there are the opinions that say you can do it Sunday morning.
Yeah, well, you can do Havdalah until Tuesday if we do.
That too.
Yeah, but
Go for it.
So does that mean my
Wait. You can do Havdalah till Tuesday?
I've
Yeah.
only seen
What?
it brought about Sunday.
You
can't eat.
You can't eat.
Oh, never mind.
I've only seen it brought that it works Sunday.
I forget to do
I don't know. I'll
so,
have
like,
to look and see if they say it can go all the way till Tuesday. But you're gonna eat at some point, right? Between Shabbos and Tuesday, hopefully.
I mean, unless I'm doing that intermittent fasting thing. I'm kidding.
Intermittent for 3 days.
Yeah.
You need a new doctor.
Sometimes.
okay.
All right.
We're mocked just in case Sunday and Monday and Tuesday.
Yeah, they're all
Then we start
Malaka.
preparing Wednesday, Thursday, Friday.
Right, that's right.
Based on what my Malava Malka is, I think I'm going to come back as an Italian.
Yeah, I think a lot of us will. Although the Italians will scoff at our pizza. You call that pizza? Huh.
Yep.
Nachos and cheese.
So it's interesting, but the way it's brought down is to have a hot drink and hot bread. So that's where the whole pizza thing came from.
You mean the sauce and the drink.
What? No, but just the hot. I was like, why on earth does everybody go for pizza Motzei Shabbos?
Right.
Like, you go to big cities, Brooklyn, Lakewood.
That's the thing.
J2
It's
is open
packed.
immediately after.
Packed. There isn't a single Fleishig place,
I
not a
agree.
single Israeli place. The pizza shops are out the door everywhere.
It
Every
feels
big city.
like they've been so deprived of dairy because they haven't had it, unless you had it on
I
Shabbos.
had pizza
Right.
last night, like on a whim.
That's-
But it's like, but the reason is you're supposed to have hot bread. That's how it's brought down, to have hot bread. So pizza, that's the hot bread that we eat. So
Wow. Learning so much today.
there you
Do
go.
we know why?
Soft pretzel, hot pretzel.
It's soothing for the soul, because what happens is that on Shabbos we have an extra neshama, the Shabbos one, Shabbos neshama. So when that leaves, there's a sense of loss that the remaining neshama has. So the mesamim help ease that loss, and also hot bread and hot drinks.
Hot bread, yeah.
Let's do it.
Is that like warm donuts?
God said.
Donuts.
Garlic bread.
Donuts count?
Yeah, I guess.
Hot now?
Yes, yeah. If they're fried though, they'd have to be baked. They'd have to be
Aw,
baked
boo.
to count. But again, it doesn't have to be hot bread. It's just
Yeah.
that's
Okay.
what's mentioned. So
Vayehi lechem.
where'd that come from? Okay.
My imagination.
Well, apparently in Stephen's house,
Right.
in Stephen's house, apparently there's a voice that calls out and says,
Let there be-
"Yehi lechem."
Let
Let
there
there
be
be bread.
pizza.
That's right. All right. Okay, are we good here? All set? Yes?
Yeah.
All right, let's continue on that. Okay. V'chein ha'olam kulai, and so too, the whole world around us. Yischarev mitzurasa shalata. It will be destroyed from the form that it's in now. V'yashu v'yibane b'tzura acheres ru'uya l'shlemus. And it will return and be rebuilt in a different form that is appropriate for perfection. Like we talked about last week, that the same way the animals were then what people are now. And food used to grow ready to eat out of the ground. Like the world went through a significant change, and that's all going to have to change in order for mankind to be back to perfection. V'alkein nigzar ala adam sheyamos. So that's why it was decreed upon man that he should die. V'yachzar v'yichya, and then he will be brought back to life. V'u'inyan tchiyas hamesim. And this is the idea of the resurrection of the dead. And I will just point out, as he does on the bottom over here, that in Maimar HaIkrim, a different one of the Ramchal's works, he writes that even those who are alive when Mashiach comes will still have to die for a short period before they will be resurrected. So before the resurrection, there's going to be everyone's going to die. In order that everyone should be able to have this rebirth in this new form of being able to be perfected. So that's a process that everyone has to go through. The Allah Olam and the entire world, the same thing. Sheyeh Charev, the world will be destroyed. V'yachzer v'yichudash, and then it will be renewed again. It will be rebuilt. V'inyan ma she'amru chachamenu zal. This is what our sages have said. Shita alfei shana have alma. The world is 6,000 years. V'chad chariv, and then 1,000 years it will be destroyed. U'lesaif elef shana, and at the end of 1,000 years, HaKadosh Baruch Hu chayzer mechadesh eseilamai. Hashem will return and renew His world.
In the book it says, at the end of this 1,000 years.
Instead of?
Well, so you go 6,000 years will the world exist,
Yes.
and for 1,000 it will be desolate.
Nice day, everybody.
Correct.
Bye.
So does that mean it's the last of
You
the
know.
6,000 years?
It goes on till 11. Yeah.
Does that mean it's the last of the 6,000, or is that the 7th year?
There are 1,000 years after 6,000. Those 1,000 years are desolation.
So it's the
And
7th.
then after that is when the world is recreated, rebuilt.
So after 6,000 years, we then go through the desolation period of another 1,000 years.
Correct. Now, just my own thinking here, I'm assuming that the same way mankind is rebuilt from an existing part, the world will also be rebuilt from an existing part. And my guess is, Evan Shasia, exactly. The rock that the world was initially created from, which was